So it's now 6. Can we have a motion? We don't have a quorum, and we likely will not have a quorum till later in the meeting, if then. But can we have a motion to start the meeting?
Yeah, so moved. Yeah,
A second? Thanks. So yes, so we, everybody I assume is voting aye to start the meeting. I
sure.
am, so.
Aye.
All right, so, we've heard that Commissioner Parker cannot make it to this meeting, and Ms. Nelson is delayed. So we don't have a quorum, but we can still have discussions, and I think we're waiting for the person from the State Board of Elections. Is that right, Ms. Warner-Wiggins?
Yes, that's correct. I sent him, oh, and there he is. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Kevin. And I know Ms. Warner-Wiggins has to, hello. Ms. Warner-Wiggins has to leave early and will leave the meeting going, so we can pick Mr. Globally, did I get that right? We can pick his brains and we can probably all come out much more informed on what we need to do going forward. And apologies for not turning my video on, but it's 3:30 in the morning where I am now, so probably not a good idea for me to turn it on right now. I think we had on our topic for discussion, the first topic was the outreach plan. We have so far, we have a slideshow presentation that we have recorded going through, so we have that available. And we'd welcome your comments on that, Mr. McLaughlin. What else do we have in hand? We have very good fact sheets from when the legislation was passed in 2018 that explains the program. But if you could, I think the best thing to do now is to hand the mic over to Mr. Globally and see what other jurisdictions have done and what we need to accumulate in our arsenal going forward, because this is many years since the passage of the legislation. And it's fairly close to the election date itself. The primary is in a year from now, roughly. So, and that's really what pushes everything in Prince George's is the primary. So I could hand the mic over to Kevin. We could move on.
Let me just jump in for 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, and hello. So we recently have the guidebook or manual, and we were talking about having like an FAQ kind of document. And then I think it'd be really helpful if we generate like that FAQ or just a fact sheet. And then maybe we can talk later about what maybe even like a one panel kind of document. And I think we'll have to talk what kind of resources are available from the county to support this outreach. But already we've been getting there's some opportunities to begin to speak and to do some outreach and actually participating in meetings. So just one quick update that I noticed that the Maryland Democratic Party they're having a workshop tomorrow night online, and I'd previously signed up for this just because I was curious. And it's how to be a candidate, kind of. So it's a little primer, I think, for an hour and a half. If you're interested in running, what kinds of things do you need to consider? And so it's sort of like campaign 101. So I sent them an email actually just today when I started thinking about it, asking if they were going to include public financing as an option for the jurisdictions that have it. And that if they weren't, it'd be great for them to mention that, and that and then actually maybe they would like to have a separate follow-up session just for that. And in that, I mentioned that we were having, this meeting tonight, and I mentioned that the Board of Elections now has a finance program, public finance program officer. So I actually gave them your name and said that, you might be a resource for folks. But anyway, I gave them the links to our website and some of the stuff we've got. And then also there's a group meeting on Saturday at the Bladensburg Library. It's a activist group. It's we just found out about it. And I don't know the people, but it's there's a chapter or a branch of the Democratic Socialist Party, or I'm not sure if they're a party or just an organizing group, but they were interested in talking about learning about the Fair Election Fund. So I volunteered to come and speak to them just to give information. So I think there's some opportunities. And then, for example, my wife is on the board of the county League of Women Voters, and she said that they have their monthly meeting where it's often they have speakers and topics is the first Saturday every month. And so she was going to check with them, and that could be an opportunity as early as May 3rd. But if not, then I said it'd be great to do it in June, which by the time we hit the end of May, we'll know exactly how much money is in our fund. So between now and then, we still have a little bit of this item number 2 on our agenda, budget advocacy. We still have that as a need, but at the same time, we can start layering in the public outreach part. So that's just a little bit of what I'm aware of, and then there may be other things that that are happening as well. But I just thought I'd lay that out. So yeah, great to hear what perspectives from the state level.
Very good. Dan, do you like to be called Dan or Daniel?
Dan's fine. Yeah.
Okay. I have a brother named Dan, so you have to check,
Yeah.
So yeah, let me just say this. My name is Kevin Gilogly. You earned bonus points for saying my surname correctly several times. So I'm gonna have to, you're gonna have to say your name a couple times so I can make sure I can reciprocate with you.
Yeah, my name is Suchitra Balachandran.
Satitra?
Suchitra, yes, that's good enough. Yeah.
And say the last name again, please.
Balachandran.
Balachandran. Okay.
Yes.
I may mess that up a few times. I remember talking with Aruna Miller when she was a delegate, and I said, "What was your birth name?" And it was one. She said it like 3 times, and I still couldn't get it. Good thing she married a David Miller. So, first off, I want to thank you for having me here. Jackie and the team in Prince George's County have been wonderful to work with. And I'm in the middle of my 6th week of being on the state board of elections. And I got into this position, I don't know if Jackie told you, because I was a campaign manager for Shannon Sneed's race using public financing in Baltimore City. And she was the very first person to ever qualify for that. And we didn't apply. We were the second person to apply for public financing, and we did it in late September. So the fact that you already have one person who's applied for public financing for this in District 1, you guys may be further along than we were. And by the end of the cycle in Baltimore City, there were 8 people that applied, 4 that qualified. And of the 4 that qualified, it was a total of, I think, $1.1 million went out to them. Most of it went to the mayoral candidate. But Shannon, who didn't come from money, was able to raise almost $300,000 of public matching funds. Her max was 4.25. They had a thing called the one-time boost, where once you hit your qualifying, they gave you like 50,000. In the case of Shannon's race, she was running for city council president. It's a county-wide office. It would be the equivalent of one of your at-large. That at-large also runs the county council, and the like. But she raised more in the 6 months, 7 months of the campaign, probably about 20% more than she did when she ran for the same office 4 years ago as an incumbent. So it shows you the power that can happen with this kind of funding. But the reason I got into this is because I was always sort of hounding the person I report to, Alan Norfleet. And for those who don't know Alan, Alan's the person who replaced Jared Damaris, who was the candidacy and campaign finance person in the state of Maryland for almost 20 years. He replaced Linda Lamone as the state administrator. So you harangue the boss, and next thing you know, he brings you on board, and the like. But one of the things that I think works well is, and I was saying this to Jackie, is that I believe that Baltimore City didn't do enough to be able to promote the program once they got it in there. We had, I think, like 1.7 to $2 million in our fair election fund. But all these people voted for it on the city council and the like, and none of them took it, you know? And it was unfortunate, which is completely opposite from what it was in Montgomery County, where everyone does, you know, 7 of the 10 in the first cycle, 7 of the 10 people that won did it with public financing in 2018. And it was 6 of 12 in 2022. So you can see there's a wide range of stuff. But really getting, and ultimately whatever the decision is of the county council and the county executive on budget, that's what we go with. It's not for me to advocate for more or less. It's what, they have all the competing interests to deal with. So they're going to have to figure out what's best use of the money. Having said that, I think there's a great role for everyone. As I think I mentioned to Jackie, I've been saying it to other people, is I think the greatest role I can have is to make sure that we have a lot of happy people at the end of it. Maybe not happy whether they won or lost, but that this ran smoothly. That the legal people in the county are happy that no one's suing us. The budget people are happy because we stayed within budget. The candidacies and the candidates are their treasurers and campaign managers are happy because it ran smoothly and efficiently, and ultimately that it's something that you all see, and you can go back and be an advocate for this to the council when you do your debrief afterwards. In terms of outreach, I think probably the one that does the best on it is Montgomery County. They have a full-time liaison on this, among other things. And if you haven't seen their website, they have a website, and maybe I'll put it up here so you can see it. They have completed like templates for a contribution form and what have you, so you can sort of see this and announcements that the candidate qualified and stuff like that. So they're really pretty good on that. And again, they're going into their 3rd cycle with this one, so they're far and away ahead of everyone else. But I'm encouraged because I don't think there's a state in the union that's doing more for public finance. And this is the message I think I would tell to people when you go out into the community, is that right now, under local financing, we now have 6 jurisdictions, our 6 largest, and they account for 71 to 72% of the state population. So it means 71 to 72% of our state population is covered under local laws that allow for public financing. Yes, it doesn't cover delegates, and it doesn't cover state senate, and it doesn't cover, the Maryland State Comptroller or the Maryland Attorney General, but it does cover county council, county executive, in a way that no other jurisdiction is coming anywhere near where we are. And I think that's one of the key messages when you go out and talk to people, is to be able to sort of point this out. As I told my person who I now report to, Alan Norfleet, I said, look, I realize as a campaign manager that this job, this is not manna from heaven. You have to document everything at a much higher level than you ever did on a regular campaign. You've got to link your expenditures and your contributions You have, anytime you file a report, all your opponents can see what you're doing, as opposed to others where you just wait for the annuals or the pre-primaries and the like. So you're basically showing everyone that you're at it. But that's no different than anyone else that asks for a grant or a loan or any other thing from Prince George's County, from the state of Maryland, or from the federal government. You have to document what you're doing with it. And we want to be able to show the residents of Prince George's County, when we're done, that their money was used wisely. And I think that's the other thing, because a lot of the questions, whether I'm in Prince George's or in Baltimore County or Anne Arundel, all three of you are coming onto this program new. I get a lot of the same questions over and over again about, concerns about people sort of running away with the money or something like that. No, it's pretty clear. I'm sort of the referee. I'm following state law, and I'm also following your county law as it passed through your county council. It's not us making stuff up. If it doesn't conform with what your council passed, then we're not doing it. And there's differences between what Prince George's does than what Anne Arundel does, and what, Howard or Montgomery or Baltimore County, which is fine. That's the way that's the way state law is set up. So it's not like one is right and one is wrong. It's just, this is what works, and this is what needed to be done to make sure that it could pass the Prince George's County Council. And that's fine. And if you want to modify it going forward, but I think the questions that you're going to get from folks are going to be really, I think, probably the ones you've been discussing yourself. I mean, I've seen several of your meetings online, but it's just making sure that no one's sort of like trying to take advantage of this. And I think to be able to tell folks those types of things are important. And I think having a FAQ or a handout sheet on some of the things, it gives them kind of the basics, because as a campaign manager, I had to spend as much time explaining public financing to individual voters in Baltimore City as I did trying to convince them why I thought Shannon Sneed was such an excellent candidate. And so as a candidate, I'm trying to do two of them. Here in the Fair Election Fund, it can be really easy to say, we're just advocating for this program that passed the county council and has been very popular around the state. And we want to be a leader in this one. And I think that's probably the greatest role. I think, Dan, the group, I think League of Women Voters, I think, again, maybe the Republican Party isn't as robust in Prince George's as it is in other parts of the state. But if they want something, absolutely. Uh, you know, this is not a partisan thing. If, third party candidates want to be able to get into this, they can qualify for it as well. And we can sit there and talk with them. And, I may not be able to make every one of them, but I think that's where the Fair Election Commission can be a huge help to advocate to do it, because then you'll be able to go back to your electeds at the end of this and saying, this is what we saw, this is what we're doing, and you can modify it. And I think that's a tremendous role that you guys all play. And kudos to you on that. So, I've been working with, like I said, the liaison officer in Montgomery County to do things with it. And, we don't have a liaison officer here, but, we can work together and, the community, the organizations that would be interested in this, whether it's a breakfast club, whether it's a senior group or something like that, church groups, anything like that, that you get enough people to be able to let them know what's going on. I think it's gonna be beneficial, because when people hear about this, generally I know you guys didn't have a public plebiscite. 3 of the 6 jurisdictions had public plebiscites. They, had county charter amendments, or in the case of Baltimore City, a city charter amendment. In every case, they passed, pretty strongly. I think the closest one was 53-47, and one was as high as, I think, 70-30. So you see consistently that people are really, really in favor of this at the local level. And I think reminding of that this is an opportunity. And I don't want to say I welcome skeptics, but I think it's important for skeptics to be able to take a look at, they're going to raise questions, making sure that someone isn't going to go over it. And I think pointing out the safeguards that you have on there, the guardrails are critically important. And the other guardrail is they have to submit everything to the state board of elections, and I'm the person who will be looking at it. And I know, by talking with my boss and reading the law and making sure I'm versed on what passed the Prince George's County Council, and make sure we do what they're saying and not what happened in Baltimore County or the like. We've got to do what's right here for Prince George's. So some of those things there, but I'm, like I said, I'm more than willing to do outreach. Up here in Baltimore, I also worked in the mayor's office prior to this, so I did a lot of neighborhood outreach, and that's quite easy. I'm comfortable doing that, whether it's remotely like this, because I live in Baltimore City, or if it means coming together, at certain times, sure, absolutely. So
Thank
that's sort of
you.
a general point. If there's anything else you want to follow up on, I know I sort of did a scatter approach to it, and we can go into greater detail, or we can even have conversations afterwards, whether it's through Jackie or whether it's through the chair or however. I know you sometimes have to be careful of Open Meetings Act in terms of how you operate, but whatever it is, I'm more than willing to communicate with folks, and I can also put in the chat my title, my email, and my phone number so that you can share it with other folks as well.
Yeah, I think, thanks a lot. That was an excellent introduction, walkthrough of the program and so on. I just had, so yeah, if you could put your email and so on into the chat, then that would be great. Sort of a very general question relative to your experience with other jurisdictions, because one of the things that we have been sort of really scratching our heads and trying to figure out how to deal with is the director of finance has to make a decision by this July on whether the match would be as directed by the legislation or whether the match would actually be required to be decreased depending on the number of candidates running and the budget. And you're probably aware of what is in our budget right now. And so, I don't envy the director being in that position to make that decision. But just a comment from your experience on whether this has been seen in any other jurisdiction. We have any experience to go by on this?
I'm trying to do this, and excuse me for trying to multitask for just a moment. I'm just about there. Okay, I have all my information in the chat for there. Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry for
No,
giving full
so
attention to you.
yeah, no, I was wondering, you mentioned some dollar figures of how much various jurisdictions had in their fund when the program started. Ours is rather low at the moment, after nearly 8 years after the passage of the legislation. So one of the issues is that the director of finance has to make a decision by this July on how to deal with that. I mean, and I was wondering if you had come across that anywhere else, or if you had any other thoughts on the budget.
Right now, in terms of the other jurisdictions, Montgomery and Howard County have told me that they're going to have enough money based on their budgets, and their budgets are appropriate for their size of their counties and jurisdictions in the interest it's shown. Again, both of them have done this before, and because like you, they have a non-lapsing fund that they can accrue interest on, that the reserves come through. Like I said, Howard County did, I think, $914,000 went out in terms of public funds in the last cycle. I think they're going to have like about 3 million in their account. They really didn't have any openings in their I think all the incumbents were running for their same offices 4 years ago or 3 years ago. But they're going to have, I think, somewhere around 3 million or so in their account. But again, they have a term limited county executive. They have a couple they only have 5 district council members. They have no at-large. And they have a couple that have expressed interest in running for county executive. Some of them are, they don't have term limits. I was thinking, do they? I'm sorry, I'm getting them confused. I'm not certain if I have to remember if they have that or not. But they may be getting a lot more people moving around than they did before. So they have more money, and I think because people have gone through this, they understand it a little bit more. You know, Baltimore County, they're adding 2 new councilmatic districts because they just passed a county charter amendment in November to add 2 more districts. So they don't have any at large, but they're now going to have 9. They're going to be like Prince George's County, but without the 2 at larges. So they have to do redistricting and put in 2 new districts. So that's going to be part of what they have to. They're doing an expedited version of that, so they may not know their districts until October. But like you, they can start receiving funds 365 days prior to the primary. And the primary is set for June 30th, but just to let you know, the legislature passed a bill and it's awaiting the governor's signature to move the primary up 1 week. The changes from the last, currently the law says the last Tuesday in June to now the 4th Tuesday in June. And so it would require some reporting requirements to adjust on that, really predominantly what's called pre-primary 1, pre-primary 2. It won't necessarily, but it also will affect things like registration closing, early vote sites, and all those other things that are beyond the scope of what we're trying to do here in the Fair Election Fund. The governor could choose not to sign it, but I think he's probably going to do it. But it doesn't become enacted until October. And so we're going to start distributing funds for people that have it on July 1. So I know I sort of went far afield from that, but in terms of looking where you are, you know, there's several jurisdictions. Anne Arundel and Baltimore County are still trying to figure out what their final number is. Baltimore County announces their budget on Friday, so they won't tell me what their number is until then. I think they already have $1 million in there. Anne Arundel already has $1 million in their account. Their Fair Election Commission just met for the first time 2 weeks ago. So they're a little bit behind there, but they're moving along great, and they have a nice, good cross-section of their county working on it, and their staff, just like here in Prince George's, is doing really well. So we'll see the numbers moving around a little bit in terms of that. You know, I can't advocate for you to add or subtract money. That's something that, you know, if I think I've seen that this commission has advocated for more funding for that from the electeds, from the county executive and stuff. You know, maybe there's an opportunity to make some changes there. Again, as a person at the State Board of Elections, that's not my role. My role is just to be able to determine what, you know, who qualifies and to share that with the county so that they say these are the people that can receive funding, and to do that in an expedited fashion. So those are, I don't know if I covered everything you wanted to, but you know, I'd be happy to say, yes, we should have $100 million in this account, but no one's going to put that money into this because there's too many other important needs across the county that it would be presumptuous to assume this is what's best, because it's really people from the county and your electeds to make that choice.
So can I follow up on that, Suchitra? I think so. I think here in the county we have some special circumstance that actually we won't need as much money as we might have thought, you know, 2 years ago. So that, and just to bring you up to date, we've got 400,000 in the fund now. There is in the proposed budget another $400,000, and so that still has to be finalized. And I think it's not until mid-May or late May when that gets finalized. we think we're pretty solid at having that stay in there. I mean, we don't know. It's a moving target. There's all kinds of competing things. Something can happen last minute. It's one of the things we're going to talk about after this. And the next agenda, I think, is continuing to ensure that stays there. But we ran some numbers, and what we've been advocating is that we can do it on $800,000. And because that would get us one at large, which is 200,000, and 8 district council candidates, 75,000 each. That's pretty robust, given the fact that the law got changed, 22 years ago, to restrict people can't run if they've got an open campaign account right now. And so we just had a special election. So all kinds of people ran for county executive, not so many at large, but and for our District 5 seat where I am, those people they're not eligible to run. And also then if there's anybody who's got an elected official now or has a campaign before, the law, if I summarize it right, was that as of last July 1, if somebody was it was 2 years before the election, candidates would have to close those accounts or have them inactive. And so any campaign account that's been active since that time and that wasn't closed, they can't run. So we're just talking about.
Let me ask you this, just to make sure. I'm sorry, I think I saw a hand up. Satutra, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it doesn't matter if you have an account, but the restriction is on having either used the account to either having expended money from the account or have received contributions in the last 2 years. And so if you haven't done that, and I think there has been some discussion between the council member who made that amendment when the bill was modified in a couple of years ago in 2023, and Mr. DeMarinis about what happens in other counties and so on. And I think his recommendation would have been or I don't know exactly what the conversation was between the council member and him, was to have made that 1 year and not 2 years, as it has been in other counties. I think the primary reason was to prevent candidates from doing large expenditures with the existing account and then switching to public financing. So it's trying to make a fair public financing program at the start. So I think that is still in limbo, and whether candidates who have large funds in their accounts choose to go public financing is, of course, their own decision to make. But I think this does provide a restriction that could affect people in a way. It's a more dire restriction than other counties.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I don't think it's in limbo. I think there's going to be a rare instance where somebody that is either well-known or has has ever run a robust campaign in the past is eligible to do this. I think we'll find out, but I just don't think there's that many people that are eligible. The other factor is that since we're still having it. We haven't had our special election is in early June for county executive. And so and just the dynamics. I mean, obviously we're not a political group, but we try to read the tea leaves. And so I think it's very unlikely, given the nature of politics in this county, that there would be a robust public financed campaign for county executive. Any of the people who've run, if somebody else wants to challenge in 2026, it would have to be a new person. And I just think it's unlikely that someone could get traction enough, given the bar is so high, to really make a big dent in the campaign finance. I mean, it could happen,
Mhm.
And then and the director of finance has got to be, look at all possible contingencies. But I feel pretty confident we can run a successful campaign here on $800,000. And in fact, I'm a little concerned. It would be actually better I think it'd be better for our program if some well-known candidates, or existing candidates would decide to run that on public financing. It would give us visibility. So we could come out of this with none of our existing incumbents running public finance, because I think they're all disqualified because they regularly have some kind of meet and greet and raise money and spend money and do that. So I think in some ways it would be better if we had one of them doing it. And so, but anyway, that being said, I feel if we have to still protect that 400,000 and get it in the budget, and then work on getting the outreach. And I think just pivoting, one question I would have is that the point you brought up about in a campaign, the candidate maybe is spending as much time asking for a donor's contribution or explaining how it works than about the issues. And I hadn't really thought about that. So one thing that could be helpful for us is, and you, I think, suggest a little bit, just the elevator speech, boilerplate, like what are the messaging, and we can include that in some of our FAQs and stuff, but it would be the kind of messaging that a candidate or an advocate or, we can use with the voters to just explain and try to get quickly to them. So that could be helpful to put in our materials, because I guess the candidates and the people collecting the signatures are going to be doing a lot of education for us and raising the visibility of the program. And so we want to kind of empower them to get it right and have good conversations about explaining the program.
Let me ask you this. The restrictions to existing candidate committees, and we're calling them a committee because that's how they are under state law. I may be Kevin Galogly, but if I'm running for office, I'm the friends of Kevin Galogly. So the thing is that is it in your bill that passed that you cannot touch, you cannot apply for it if you've taken any expenditures in the last year or 2 years?
Yes,
Where
you
do you
cannot
have a
file. Yeah, yes.
say again? Can you give me a citation on that so I can check it?
Yeah, I can send that. I can send our bill to you with the piece highlighted after.
Okay, that would be good.
this meeting.
Because every every jurisdiction does this a little bit differently. Baltimore County says those candidates start with a negative balance with any expenditures that happened in this cycle. Um, Montgomery County just said they have to suspend. We call it dormant. We don't want to use the word inactive because inactive in the State Board of Elections has a very specific term for candidate committees. We don't have to, you can have an active committee, you can be inactive, or you can be closed. And a candidate could close an account and open up a public financing. What has happened in several jurisdictions is you just have to not have any new activity on that account. I'll give you an example from Shannon's race. So she announced in September of 2023. She did a poll before I got involved with her in like May of 2023. She went around and got some money for it and asked for those contributions. I went to Jared, who was still running things there. If I refunded that money to those candidates, could I then raise money from them going forward? And he said, no, I couldn't. So I just had to not reach out to those people. However, Shannon still has her other account up there. And like in Montgomery County, Mark Elrich, the county executive, still has his traditional account, has like $8,000 in it. He just can't use it. remember, regardless of whether you have a public finance committee or you have an active, regular traditional account, you still have to do all the annual filings. You have to do the annual reports, the pre-primaries 1 and 2, and the like. You have to do all those. So if I sat there and I had a traditional account and I made an expenditure, say January 1, and I had a public finance that started 6 months later, they could both be up there. I just had to make sure that when we were filing stuff, we had to file our public finance one as well as our traditional. Now, again, if the county code says that you can't do it, then fine, you can't do it. And we're not going to make stuff up. We're not going to go around the county, because this is what the county decided. This is what the council decided was best. If that's the case, then yeah, maybe there are some people that aren't going to participate in it. If it's 1 year, is it 1 year from the primary election, or is it
It's 2 years. It's 2 years from the primary election.
2 years from the primary election?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if that's what it was,
So,
and your
right.
vote, it passed on a very narrow vote, if I remember right, in the council, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is since the passage of that. So the bill itself passed in 2018.
And then there was some technical amendments or something like that?
This was an amendment done in 2023 to clean up some of the language and so on. And, there was some, I guess the bill sponsor put in language for 2 years, and later conversations that I've had with Mr. Demarinis has suggested that maybe a year is what other jurisdictions use. But this is what we have right now.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. Well, again, I'm not going to advocate for something that you don't have. And I'm clearly not going to overrule the boss, Jared. So we'll stay with that. But yeah, maybe there's a way to take a look at it, because I think you're right, Dan, is that you want to be able to find something that leads to a positive experience. And if there's some people that are available, because, uh, if you have a couple open seats for different races, either because they're term limited or they're seeking another office, it would be nice to, you may have some interesting races that go on. The case of Montgomery County, one of the reasons it's been popular, among other things, is that there's a lot of open seats because they instituted term limits right about the time they instituted public financing.
yeah, we have had term limits for a very long time. So that definitely kicks in every cycle.
So yeah, there, if people are concerned that they're going to, sort of be playing with a hand in both a traditional account and a public finance account, again, with your filings, you'll be able to see if someone violates, and
Right.
here's the thing. I don't have to worry about looking it up and checking it, because I guarantee you your opponents will clearly alert the state board of elections that someone's not doing something right. And then I'll investigate, and then they'll have to, and if someone's in trouble, that's the worst messaging you want to have when you're out on the campaign trail, is try to defend yourself from
And,
being in
yeah.
two parts.
And since the 2-year deadline is long past, I think, the state board will know when somebody files whether they're eligible to file that publicly financed campaign or not.
Okay. So
So-
yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I probably have ventured too far into legal issues that maybe I shouldn't have. And yeah, if you and the council people have reached out to Jared, he knows this better than anyone. He's been here at the present at the creation of public financing. So yeah, we'll go with that. But again, whomever is in here, I clearly, like you said, Dan, we can clearly do a lot of outreach to show people the benefit of this kind of program. And, if we can run this efficiently, then, maybe the next step will be to say, look what we can do in the next cycle and the cycle after that. Because I think we're really part of a really nice wave that's happening here in Maryland, more so than in any other state, with this local public financing. I'm probably being a little bit too much of an advocate when I should be a state employee and not saying those things, but I do see that there's a nice role. But again, if the law says, if Prince George's County Code says you can't do it, then we can't do it. Just that simple.
Yeah, I think in the chat, Ms. Warner Wiggins has put in the code, a link to the code and where this issue is addressed, so.
Yeah, and we'll just have to, when we write up our materials, we'll just need to run it by our legal counsel here. I think Mr. Bell's on the here now, but in terms of just clarifying to ensure we get our messaging information clear and accurate.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
saving these
so
links as we're talking about it right now.
Yeah. So I think our big issue is actually the public outreach that has to be done over the program, about the program, and sort of any tips you have on how this was done in other counties. We do have an outreach, outreach to the community, sort of a department. And I think via that, I think information could be sent out to all the civic associations that are there in the county, for example. So any other thoughts you have on that, I think would help us frame what else we should be doing in the coming weeks.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit a lot of those same points. You know, all those groups, absolutely. Anytime you can get a large collection of folks that are civically minded, I obviously wouldn't just, go out to Watkins Park and start, stopping people that are having family picnics and stuff like that. But, other than that, you know, again, whether there's large groups, if you wanted to do something with the central committees for both of the major parties, if again, if they're breakfast groups, and again, all of you know where those communities are, and we can be in regular conversation. Like I said, I have my email. Just let me know. Even if I can't attend it, it's nice to know what's going on, because I can't be everywhere all at once, and you all know your county more than I ever will. And I want to, like I said, if we can do those things, if you have any questions, you know, uh, individually or collectively as a commission, you can send them to me, because like I said, I just want to make sure that this thing, we're what, 14, let's see, yeah, we're 14 months away from a primary. And that time's going to fly by real quick. And who's to say that someone doesn't, run in the general, someone who wasn't involved in the primary. Um, if you have a candidate that's, had, doesn't have anyone challenging them, that, they don't have a contested election, they may, they may have a contest in the general. I think it's probably unlikely in Prince George's that you're more likely that you would have a contest, no contest in a primary and then a contest in the general. I don't think that's probably the way it's going to go, but I could be wrong. So I, it sounds like a lot of the areas that you talked about, I have too. And I can, let me do this. Let me send over to you. Have you guys seen the Montgomery County site for their, what they have for their liaison?
Not lately. Haven't looked at it lately.
Okay, let me take a look, see if I can find it. Oh, wrong one. Keep finding the wrong stuff. I got to look it up.
Well, as it's happening, one of the things I was going to suggest to our group is that we did letters about the budget and just to the acting county executive and also to the chair of the county council, just affirming the appreciating that the money is put in the proposed budget and encouraging them to keep it in there. And I was going to suggest that we write somewhat similar letters, but to the two candidates in the special election for the county executive, and that we could just as an educational thing share it with the Republican Democratic candidate, and if there's any other ones, I don't think there's any other ones on the ballot, but if there are, we could do that. And as a part of just our outreach, and encourage them, ask them to, we'd welcome them using, bringing this up in any of their campaign, and then we'd love to hear, and we think the public would be interested in hearing their position as it would come up. And then also, should they be elected, just we're giving them information, and this is something that would be, we just want them to have a heads up that it's important to have this in the budget every year, and that our role is to make recommendations for that budget. So I just thought that might be another thing we could do coming out of this meeting as a way to just keep awareness growing and leverage anything. There won't be a lot of campaign events, but there's going to be some, and just so that we have those two candidates informed should it come up and become an issue.
Yeah, those are good. I was just thinking of something here. Now, we meaning the State Board of Elections, we don't have a lot of direct interaction with the Prince George's County Board of Elections on public financing. We do on other things, voter registration and the like. But the role I'm at in the state board is that I've been dealing more with people like Jackie and legal and finance people all the way around, the county people that work on that. However, having said that, maybe a way to sort of coordinate with folks would be, I know there's a lot of people that do voter registration drives, whether it's through your, the Prince George's County Board of Elections goes to major events and they have stuff. You could maybe check and see if they would be amenable to you as commissioners that are duly appointed by the county council, not just John and Joe and Jane Citizen doing this, but you have a role based on your approval from the council to be able to stand there and have a flyer or brochure that talks about public financing there. Obviously you're going to have to make the message really, really tight. I don't know what kind of budget there would be for something like that. Again, one of the ways that funding can be done for these things is donations. So I don't know how I know Howard County got like $50,000 in donations in the last 4-year cycle. Maybe someone from the commission gave them money, or someone who just a good government type. But those may be something, again, check with the county to make sure that you're able to do that. I don't want to advocate for something that you can't do. So clearly check with them. But those might be ways to go, because I know I see the local board of elections in several jurisdictions that are at these large events, and they can hand stuff out to people where they're doing voter registration drives. And there can also be, there's a lot of advocacy groups, again, whether it's the League of Women Voters, Nonpartisan, or Common Cause, or some other groups. You could do stuff with them that can be a little bit more, I'm trying to think of the right word, but can advocate more for a particular position, as opposed to county officials or me or, the local board of elections. So those types of things could go. There's, you got so many different things, the county fair, I know Labor Day, Greenbelt has a huge Labor Day parade. I don't know if I'd necessarily want to be handing out stuff there, it may not last very long and you may not get the best bang for the buck, because where you're at Greenbelt, you're just as likely, you have a high probability of getting non-county residents there too. So
I like the idea of like of just having a conversation with like Board of Elections and seeing whether if we had a small flyer or just something that we could provide them that they could take, and it might have a QR code, have some just basic information about it. There may be that and other events, and then all of our council members have events, and maybe so we need to talk, I guess, with our staff of what's the possibility of generating could be a flyer, but maybe something smaller than like the 8.5 by 11, just something that could be available at things like that. That sounds good. But and you said, did you say Montgomery County? How much money did you say was contributed outside of the county budget?
oh, it's Howard County in the
Howard.
last cycle, 50,000.
50. Someone did. Wow.
Well, it could have been one person, it could have been multiple. I don't know the limits on donations, but again, all of the jurisdictions have a setup that, this non-lapsing fund, they'll use interest and donations and return funds. So, where and how much you can do, clearly talk to county staff to make sure that you're doing this correctly.
Yeah, and they might be checkoffs that jurisdictions have on tax
Correct.
forms
Yeah,
to,
and
to contribute.
I
a
don't
dollar
want
or
to,
two.
I'm already
Yeah.
probably outside my level of competence, but those types of, again, as I said at the top of this, I want to make sure that this is a well-run campaign, that program that people understand, that when we're done and we do the debrief at the end, that there can be a lot of positive experiences with this, and that we're not hearing problems with fundraising, to be able to get this stuff out or anything else. Is that let's make sure that, we're all rowing the boats, the oars in the same direction, and get a really good result. So yeah, there's some opportunities there. I do know Montgomery County, their county staff, their liaison officer, and again, I put the link in the chat for the stuff from Montgomery County, where they have these PDFs and stuff that are there, so you can sort of use that as an idea to be able to say, here are some things that you can do. He leaves literature at the Montgomery County Board of Elections up in Gaithersburg. He has a welcome packet. You can work on a welcome packet for individuals. Like I said, you just have one right now, but if you have something that's electronic, if you just run across to someone who's interested in this, you can at least give them that to take a look at it. We can do some trainings to be able to show people how to go through this on the MD Chris program. Chris is Campaign Reporting Information System. That's what Chris stands for. So those types of things. Baltimore County, they have a coordination between county staff and the state and the local Board of Elections when people are filing there. So again, because of filing, people can file, they'll be able to file it. I assume the local Board of Elections is in Upper Marlboro. Is that correct? Prince George's County Board. Where are they located?
Largo now, I think.
Largo. Okay. All right.
I think so.
Yeah, I think going there and telling them this is what you want, take a look at some of the stuff from Montgomery County and tweak it so that it matches your code, your responsibilities, and what you want to get to people. But a welcome packet would be worthwhile. And again, I can work with all of you, or if you have someone who's pretty good at it, in terms of putting together like a PowerPoint show that sort of does things. And if you do it in the same colors as that summary guide, I have to tell you, I really like the colors that the county put together on that summary guide. Since I live really close to Coppin State, I noticed those were Coppin colors. So maybe that was an Eagle fan, an Eagle graduate from Coppin State.
So we do
Instead of a
have,
bulldog. Instead of a bulldog from Bowie State, sorry.
Yeah, we do have a PowerPoint presentation that we have created and walked through, so it's both recited and the slides are there, so, you know, we've done that, and that's available as a recording and can be sent to civic associations, for instance, so they can, you know, so people can look at this, people with interest can look at this at their own time and leisure and actually have time to then question.
Could you share that with me either here
Yeah,
or
yeah.
send it to me at my work email? That would be
Yes,
fine.
I think, yes,
Thank
we
you.
can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's also, I just wanted, I know Ms. Warner-Wiggins has had to leave and she's left the meeting running, but it's been an hour and I don't want to presume on anybody's time. I did want to ask the other commission member, Ms. Toulson, if she had any questions or comments or anything. I know she's been listening in very patiently. Okay, so while we wait to hear from her, does anyone else? Okay, so she's just replied in the chat. She doesn't have any questions or comments at this time.
Okay.
Anyone else from the staff have any questions or issues they want to raise?
No questions or issues on my behalf.
And
Thank you. Ms.
Terry,
Brown.
you're with the county staff?
I'm with the Office of Law for the county.
Oh, so you're the one that we have to make sure that we don't get mad, right?
Correct.
Very good. If you can, Terry, if you're the point person, can you send me an email so I have your contact information so that we can stay in touch if there's any additional problems?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be able to have all my resources for whether it's budget, the people that are paying out, the lawyers. Got to always make sure the lawyers are happy.
I understand. And I also work with Mr. Leroy Maddox. He's an attorney for the council. So we both work on this committee together. So I'll send you both of our information.
Thank you very, very much.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll keep me from saying something I shouldn't.
Correct. I'll try.
Well, I can be roped in real quickly. I have an older sister and a younger sister that have always been able to put me in my place.
Understood.
And if you're a lawyer on top of it, then I'm really in my place. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Allen, any?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
Kevin and I have met in another meeting as well, so.
That's right. Okay. Well, again, if you have any other additional questions or times you want to meet, I'm generally available unless I have obviously a conflict with one of the other counties, but I'm really excited about this and the role that we're playing in the state of Maryland as being a leader in this, in public financing, and that we can be able to show it to all the other people across the country what we're doing. It's really, really amazing.
Thanks.
Just tell people, remember, 71% of the people in Maryland, the population, are now covered by public financing for local races. Of course, I have had public financing for governor since 1974.
Wow.
And we've obviously elected someone with public financing. Larry Hogan got in that way. So, you know, people want to put a partisan spin on it. The two of the first three people to use public financing at the gubernatorial level were Ellen Sauerbrey when she almost beat Paris Glendening in '94. She used public financing. And then Heather Mazur tried it in 2014 when she ran for governor in the primary and lost. And then Rashawn Baker did it in 2018, Rich Madaleno for governor in 2014, and they redid the program from a checkoff in 2015 is when the law passed. I have to be up to speed on that. That I'm also covering that, but right now no one has shown any interest. So my focus has been on working with all the new counties to help you as much as I can, and to learn what you know, how Prince George's County is doing it, so that, you know, I understand the difference between your county and the others.
So I think one thing we have to look at that you brought to our attention was that if this primary moves a week earlier to the 23rd of June, whether in our law, I'm not sure if it's that the director of finance has to make a pronouncement about adequacy in the fund by July 1, or whether it's a year before the primary.
Well, here's another conundrum to it. And again, I'm not an attorney, but we talked about this yesterday at staff. If the governor were to sign it, say, tomorrow, the enabling legislation isn't until October 1. So technically, the primary will be on June 30th until we hit October 1, and then it will revert to June 23rd, if the governor signs it. So technically, when we hit July 1, the primary will still officially be June 30th, but most of us will say, yeah, it's probably going to be June 23rd. So
All right.
again, I'm not a lawyer. I did play one on TV. I was in House of Cards, but I am not a lawyer in real life, and I don't want to get myself flummoxed in there, but we're really quibbling over a week. And in the scheme of things, that may not be the thing to quibble over. But again, I'm not a lawyer, and I may have just gotten myself into trouble.
And anyway, I mean, I think sort of as an added thought, it's very difficult for the director of finance to rein in the program and put restrictions before anybody has signed in to say they're going to run for the program.
Mhm.
So it's, that's why I said it's not an enviable position, but anyway, that's thankfully not my problem to address.
Understand.
Yes.
Okay. Well, like I
So-
said, anytime you have any additional questions, or if you want to meet, I'll make myself available as best I can.
Thank you very
Right.
much. Any final thoughts, Dan?
I just wonder whether on this, whether we could pivot just for 1 second on the other agenda item, budget advocacy. I don't think we do it in like 2 minutes, but is that okay? I mean, I think we've this has been great about public outreach and some of the next items, and we can't even, we can't take a vote. We don't have a quorum, so there's nothing we're officially, pronouncing here. But in terms of the budget advocacy, just to make sure there are full, who all is here, we did send the letters to the acting executive, the new council chair, and we have a request in for a meeting with the new council chair, and it's right now pending just scheduling. So that will be happening, we believe, soon. In terms of, I don't know if it's just going to be, whoever on the council or our commission's available. But so we expect to have that meeting just to urge the money in the budget to see if there's any concerns, questions that they have. And then I'm suggesting we follow up. I don't think it's a vote or anything needed, but that we just, as part of our outreach, we send a letter just explaining this to the 2 candidates, because I think it's just an opportunity for the county executive coming up with the election. There may be some forum, or there might be who knows, voter guides, and maybe they'll raise this issue. We just want to make sure they have accurate information, and hopefully they can be on board and support this. So I will work on I can work on drafting a letter for the chair and send that by staff and folks in the next week or so. And just, I think we can do all that sort of offline. I don't think it takes any kind of a vote or anything.
Yes, that sounds good, Dan. And
Okay, and that's all I
yeah.
have.
Yeah, so the chair of our commission is Ms. Jana Parker, and she was unable to be here today. So we will be back again. So I want to thank Mr. Gilloli for his time, his excellent exposition, his information that's shared, and willingness to keep participating in all of this. So thank you very much. Glad to have a very good contact now with the State Board of Elections.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, or can we have a motion to close?
I'll move that we close the meeting or end the meeting, adjourn.
Second. Seconded
Yep.
by Ms. Wilson, so thank you all, and we will see you in another month.